Yeah, the mortality data is pretty laughable, especially for primary prevention. So primary prevention is someone who's never had a heart attack, never had angioplasty, stent, or bypass surgery. Secondary prevention is someone who's had a heart attack or stroke, angioplasty, stent, or bypass surgery. So the data gets better for secondary prevention. Primary prevention is pretty weak. Especially as it relates to overall mortality, who lives and who dies. In fact, there were 3 studies that I can name off the top of my head. Sparkle, All Hat LLC, and AFCAPS TexCaps, which is the original statin study, that showed that overall mortality was actually higher. More people died in the statin group versus placebo. But let's say it saves lives by a little bit, heart attacks by a little bit, strokes really not even by a little bit. Stroke is kind of like it's really non-existent, the benefits. It's a false sense of security. People think they can eat, live, and do whatever they want and they'll be safe. There are a tremendous amount of side effects, and it's not root cause medicine. It keeps them plugged into the system. There's a better way, and we're talking about the #1 selling drug class of all time. Absolutely abysmal. It's a shame. It's demonic. Every kind of pejorative you can throw at them, it's all true.
Hello, and welcome to Legends of Longevity with me, Joseph Entz. I'm your host, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this journey towards living a longer, stronger, and more vibrant life. The podcast is about uncovering the secrets to longevity, things your doctor does not tell you, whether it's groundbreaking advancements in heart health, lifestyle tips to keep you thriving, or inspired stories of people who've defied the odds. Together, we'll explore the tools, techniques, and mindset shifts that can help you unlock your fullest potential. Whether you're here to learn how to enhance your well-being, support your loved ones, or just stay ahead of the curve in health and wellness, you're in the right place. Let's empower each other to not only live longer, but live stronger. This is Joe Entz with Legends of Longevity. I've got a great guest today, Dr. Jack Wolfson. I'm sure you all know of or are aware of his work. A cardiologist, did the cardiology training, did all the installs in everybody's chest, and found that he wasn't making people better. He repented, changed his life. He's going natural. He's trying to bring us the best information to manage our bodies. Welcome, Dr. Jack Wolfson.
Joe, thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it. Let's get rolling.
I love it. Okay, we just got back from A4M. And we saw a lot of new gizmos out there, and you were telling me just a second ago that if you had one wish to the world was to get this knowledge out there. Which knowledge, or what impressed you this year, and what'd you like?
Well, I think that the most impressive thing is that so many people are there. I think it was their biggest conference ever. This is the American Academy of Anti-Aging, A4M. They've 33 years having this massive conference. These 2 doctors, Goldman and Klatz, started this many years ago. And it really is just a gathering in a lot of ways of naturally minded physicians and practitioners and technology companies. Now, it's not perfect. I'm a purist. I'm the guy who's wearing organic cotton underwear. There's a lot of stuff there in the gadgets and the gizmos that I don't agree with, but you know, I'm about freedom. I'm about people having the choice to see what works for them. But there really is a foundational message that we need to get out there, that it's not about the gadgets and the gizmos. It's about root cause medicine. It's about getting the stuff we need, taking away what doesn't. And that is ultimately the strategy. So these root cause things about how we eat, live, and think, that's really what matters.
Love it. Love it. I got some questions on some of the therapies. Let's start. I've got some research studies that I've been going over and things that I'm sure you recommend or have some thoughts on. Nattokinase.
Yeah, nattokinase, I like nattokinase. It really, because it comes back from the Jap. Why do the Japanese live that much longer than we do? One of the things may be because they eat natto, N-A-T-T-O, which is a fermented soy product. A lot of people don't like the way it tastes. I like it, actually, and if you can find it organic and non-GMO, there's a company out of New York that makes that fermented soy in a glass container. It's called Nurture, N-Y-T-U-R-E. I don't get any money from them. I don't really eat it because I don't really do a lot of soy, obviously. But that contains the enzyme nattokinase, which is like a little Pac-Man that gets into your system and helps to dissolve blood clots, natural blood thinner, has actually some ability as a fibrinolytic, and also there is some evidence of plaque reversal from people who use nattokinase. Now, back in the day, in the 1980s, if someone came in with a heart attack, they did not go for a primary angioplasty or stent. They were using what was called streptokinase. Again, this is a particular fibrinolytic enzyme that was injected. It worked very well, but it also led to a lot of catastrophic bleeding. So nattokinase does have evidence, does have data, and actually there is some data about it versus warfarin in people with atrial fibrillation, and it comes out comes out looking pretty darn good in that scenario. So, check with your doctor. It is a product that we carry inside of a product we call Flow at Natural Heart Doctor, which is nattokinase serrapeptase, but I like it.
You got the serrapeptase in there too. Bonus points for you.
It's, listen, I think that, all this stuff, it kind of comes down to these, biohacking supplements, and then biohacking other things that are red light, therapies, sauna, EBU, ozone, all these other things that we do.
Okay. Excellent. Nattokinase. We were doing the math here in the office, and if you eat the food, you've got to eat a lot of it because it's the poop from the bacteria or the excretion of the bacteria that does the work. And then in the research, we did it's like 12,000 FU units, functional units, which is about 300 milligrams of the potent nattokinase to get the research level regression.
Well, let me say this. I mean, it's like, when people talk about supplements versus whole food. So, for example, we have a product called Kickstart My Heart, which is unvaccinated bison, liver, heart, kidney, field harvested, shot by a marksman, prairie grass fed. Best supplement in the world. There's nothing better. There's nothing better. But if you ask me how much CoQ10 is in there, I don't know. And it's like, well, if you want to take, 100 milligrams of CoQ10 synthetically versus what's in the organ, I don't know. But I do know that the amount in the organ is the perfect amount to get the job done. So although I do like natto and I do like nattokinase, the study dosage and stuff like that, I think if you have all those additional cofactors, there may be a lot of synergy. So you may not get the same milligram amount, but you may get the same amount of benefit.
Yeah, nutraceuticals are tough because you're dealing with natural things and you're not sure of the potency. I totally agree with that. But to your earlier point on the natto, how much do you eat?
Yeah, I mean, like me personally, because I don't feel the need to eat that, and I'm anti-soy, and I'm the paleo guy, so it's not something I eat often. That's for sure. I mean, candidly, if I've had it 10 times in my life, that would be a lot. But anyways, I think it's just the taste of it is so off-putting to so many people. But whatever.
Yeah, I ate it every day for months, and I had a hard time with it. But it's amazing. Reading up.
People, they get concerned because nattokinase in the supplement form, it comes from soy. But that's all that's left, of course, is that particular enzyme. And enzyme, of course, is a protein, as you know, that's all that's left over. So there's not like soybean oil and other soy proteins that are in there. It's a pretty clean distilled product that I think has efficacy. Is it for everybody? Joe, I use it in two places. One is for plaque reversal, and the other is going to be as a natural anticoagulant. So for people with atrial fibrillation, people with clotting disorders, I think it's a good product to consider.
And the anticoagulant, so that's similar to aspirin, or is it less powerful than aspirin, or about the same? And you should stop it before surgery.
It gets out of the body pretty quickly. So, and nobody, and before people are going for surgery, they're not asking people how much natto they eat. So and it's kind of funny also when you think about supplements. I worked in the hospitals for 16 plus years. I never saw anyone who came in from a side effect from a supplement, or like, oh, it turned out that the supplement was the problem. I never saw that. Aspirin is an antiplatelet. So it's specific to platelet activity. The way that nattokinase works is a little bit different as a fibrinolytic to help break down fibrin. So it's kind of similar, but it's kind of different. And they're not mutually exclusive. You can take nattokinase while you're on aspirin, but it could potentially lead to more bleeding from the aspirin. So if you develop an aspirin-induced ulcer, it's more likely to bleed if you're on nattokinase, for example.
That makes sense. Boning up for this interview, it was amazing to me how you and I came from different places, but our diet and our thoughts are exactly in line. Like, we're going to go as natural as we can. I want the cleanest, simplest food. And it's I mean, people are coming around. They're figuring it out that the pharma narrative isn't what we hoped it was.
Yeah, it's again, God bless the men and women who work in emergency rooms and trauma centers, but we're talking about the treatment, the prevention, the treatment and reversal of chronic disease for which mainstream medicine has nothing. They got their statin drugs, they got their PCSK9s, they got their, GLPs, they got all these different things that they're trying to trot out there, but they're not even close to doing better to what we can do naturally and holistically. So yeah, I appreciate this conversation.
And the another point, just for people to observe the medical industry, you think if I got some heart issues, you got a little bit of plaque, you're going to go see a cardiologist. But you're lucky if that doctor is going to do prevention. What you're probably going to see is 12 doctors in a clinic, and there's a nurse practitioner or someone who's passionate about cardiovascular. You may get the care you want there, but just remember, mainstream medicine doesn't do prevention. It's not built into the CPT code system. They don't get paid for it. It's just not an incentive. It's actually a disincentive. So when you're shopping for doctors, find someone who's in line with you.
Well, and that's for sure. Shop for the doctors, and listen. The ability these days to go online, of course, and to go onto Google, and that's been going on for 20 years. Are you Dr. Google? Well, now are you Dr. Gemini or Dr. Chat GPT or Claude or whatever your favorite platform is, and you can ask multiple different platforms, and you ask the question about what is the benefit of this particular. You can do it right in the doctor's office. Doctor says, "Here, Joe, I want you to take Lipitor." And you're like, okay, give me 1 second, and you're like, Gemini, doctor wants me to take statin drugs. And this is me. I'm 55 years old. I've never had a cardiac event. I don't have high blood pressure. I'm not a smoker. I don't have diabetes. I'm not overweight. I eat a very healthy diet. I'm very active. I sleep. I get sunshine. What is the benefit to me taking this drug? And Gemini will come back and say, no benefit. They will, if anything, it'll say teeny tiny benefit for heart attack and stroke. It will not say longevity benefits. And ultimately, ideally, it'll come back and say, it's not about how do we lower your risk from here to here. It's how do we lower your risk to zero. We know they don't do that. I feel we do that at Natural Heart Doctor. Either work with us at Natural Heart Doctor. That's the simple answer for people. Like, hey, this is self-serving. Yes, it helps to help me get my message out there to the world. It helps me pay my employees when people come work with me and with my team. I don't know where else to send people because people, they will say, hey, who do you have in Charlotte? Who do you have in Chicago? I don't have anybody else. And like you said, if you go to your mainstream doctor, they've got no interest in these conversations. And even the nurse practitioner who you mentioned as a possibility, he or she is going to be really hamstrung to toe the company line. So even though they may believe one thing, they get slapped back into line to promote the pharmaceutical message.
Yep. Okay, back to the statin. What is it like? Numbers to treat is like 1 in 5 or 600. So if you're one of 600 people that take this drug, it'll save one of your lives. It's not great. Not great.
The mortality data is pretty laughable, especially for primary prevention. So primary prevention is someone who's never had a heart attack, never had angioplasty, stent, or bypass surgery. Secondary prevention is someone who's had a heart attack or stroke, angioplasty, stent, or bypass surgery. So the data gets better for secondary prevention. Primary prevention is pretty weak, especially as it relates to overall mortality, who lives and who dies. In fact, there were 3 studies that I can name off the top of my head. Sparkle, All Hat LLC, and AFCAPS TexCaps, which is the original statin study, that showed that overall mortality was actually higher. More people died in the statin group versus placebo. But let's say it saves lives by a little bit, heart attacks by a little bit, strokes, really not even by a little bit. Stroke is kind of like, it's really non-existent, the benefits. It's a false sense of security. People think they can eat, live, and do whatever they want, and they'll be safe. There are a tremendous amount of side effects, and it's not root cause medicine. It keeps them plugged into the system. There's a better way. And we're talking about the #1 selling drug class of all time. Absolutely abysmal. It's a shame. It's demonic. every kind of pejorative you can throw at them, it's all true.
Is it legal for us to gossip about Alzheimer's and stuff relating to statins?
Listen, I was on CNN in 2015 talking about the alleged measles outbreak and what a horrible concept injecting young children is. So, Joe, we can talk about anything as far as I'm concerned.
We're very in line. All right, next question. Magnesium supplementation for arterial health. I've got some studies here.
Magnesium. Yeah, magnesium is obviously a wonderful product, but it's only one out of many different minerals that the body tends to be deficient in. So I'm a big fan of test, don't guess. So if we think about all these different disease conditions, we think about coronary artery disease, atrial fibrillation, heart attack, strokes, we think about cancer, dementia, you name it. That's all up in the top of the tree, right? Those are the branches, those are the leaves. Below the surface, those are the roots, and that's where root cause comes in to continue with this particular analogy. And that the root cause are too much bad stuff, not enough good stuff. And that may be magnesium, but it may be other things. So where we really want to look is we want to look at the metrics that we'll call the trunk of the tree. And the metrics are things like measuring vitamins, minerals, proteins, fats, omega-3s, measuring toxin levels, measuring for leaky gut, measuring markers of inflammation, oxidative stress, doing carotid, CIMT, ultrasound tech. I don't do any form of radiation-based testing for preventive purposes in the case of coronary disease. Of course, if you're in a car accident and someone wants to know if you've got a subdural hematoma, go get a CT scan of your brain. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying about if we're looking for coronary artery disease, we can look at so many other surrogate markers besides the radiation-based stuff. And to your point, maybe it's a magnesium problem, but maybe it's a potassium problem, maybe it's a copper problem, maybe it's a B vitamin problem, maybe it's all the above, maybe it's none of the above, and it's something else. But that's where I love to do the testing. Now, quite simply, if someone's got palpitations, skips and flips and PACs, PVCs, it may get better with magnesium. You could try. There's not much downside as long as you're taking something quality. You're not taking magnesium oxide, but some kind of combination magnesium product that hits from different angles, I think is best.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Where do you think this industry is going to go? Because we're really good at stitching people back together. But preventative, the food supply is so polluted. Most people have really bad established habits that unless they have an event or they're really scared, they're not going to get out of it. So, yeah, what do you think about that? Or how do you get your family involved?
Yeah, it's the world clearly has woken up, especially over the last 5 years, to say, maybe they really don't have our best interest at heart. Stuff, Joe, you and I have known for many, many, many years. So many people are waking up to this right now as we speak. And really the freedom to be able to have these conversations is critical as well. So if social media restricts us, like I was kicked off TikTok, a year ago, I had almost 500,000, followers or fans on TikTok of my information. Then all of a sudden I was gone. So as long as we get the freedom to get this information out there, and ultimately it's about giving people a choice. So I'm an attorney for the natural side, and I'm going to make my case. And then, of course, you got another cardiologist who, let's say, they're the attorney for the pharmaceutical side. We're both going to state our case to you. You're the jury. You decide what's going to work for you and for your family. But just like as we said, more people than ever at the American Academy of Anti-Aging, more doctors than ever are opting out of the insurance industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and really kind of going to meet people where they're at. And if you're a doctor who's not doing this, you better start, because the patients are going to leave you. So you may as well jump on board. But again, they keep you in line very easily. They keep you in the powers that be, because that's your reimbursement, that's your governing bodies, those are your peers. People come out, they throw stones, but we're right, they're wrong, we're going to win.
When I got my MBA, this professor got up and he said, everything is going to go subscription. And I was like, no way, dude. I got Napster. Subscription's going away. And then that was 20 years ago. I'm like, man, that dude nailed it. He nailed it. So now I'm looking at people going to the doctor's office and they get these subscription prescriptions because the doc doesn't have time to explain, here's how you eat your way out of this problem, or here's how you exercise your way out. Doesn't have time for that. So he asked you to lose weight, you didn't, it's the second visit, you're getting a statin, which is so disappointing because people don't know, they're drinking their sugars, they just don't have the tools or the time or anybody explained it to them.
Well, the other thing too is that even if the doctors did have the time, they don't have any understanding of it, right? So they were never trained in nutrition. They were never trained in lifestyle. So it's like, oh, if the doctor only gave me more time, what are you going to talk about? Oh, the weather is awesome out here, Joe. Yeah, it's Arizona. It's 80 degrees and sunny today. Yeah, the weather's awesome. What are you doing this weekend? Like, they've got no training in nutrition. They've got no training in the importance of sleep, sunshine, physical activity. They've got no training in toxin. I talk about mold all day long, about people who live in water-damaged mold and/or bacteria. The average cardiologist, 98% of cardiologists, their eyes would like roll over. You know, they have no idea what I'm talking about. I've been an expert witness on 2 medical cases over the last year. One is a man who believed he got atrial fibrillation from living in water damaged mold, and the other is a man who had a heart attack from living in water damaged mold. In both cases, I'm hired by the plaintiff. The defense cardiologist says nothing to do with mold, and here I come with a whole stack of documentation to prove my case. The cardiologist realizes he or she is wrong, and then the case settles. So they just don't understand it. And our intention right here is we're going to bring the education to the people. We're going to bring the information to the people. Then they're going to decide.
That's actually newer information to me, the mold. Are there simple testing people can look for in their house, or what do they do for that?
Mold is a big one, Joe. It's a big one. I've lived it firsthand. I've seen so much of it now since my eyes have been opened to it. Essentially, houses, you know, I spoke at A4M, and there were hundreds of doctors in the audience. And I got up there and I'm talking and I'm like, you all live in mold. And people, of course, are like, what? No, I don't. My house is perfect. If your house is built out of wood, AKA popsicle sticks, you have mold. You have mold. Mold was there before the wood got there. Mold occurred during the building process and it got rained all over, and then you put up the drywall, you seal it, HVAC systems, condensation, leaky toilet, shower, sink, dishwasher, laundry machine. It's just that, not to mention leaky roof and people's basements. So the 2% of cardiologists who would agree with me, those are the 2% where their house flooded and their wife got sick. So they understand it. They understand that. But it's a big one, man. It's a big one. And also, listen, mold mycotoxins lead to intestinal hyperpermeability, leaky gut, endothelial hyperpermeability, leaky blood vessels, coronary artery disease, dead. Like that's the way it goes down. And mold is a major factor. Mold's talked about in the Bible, the book of Leviticus. Moses is telling us if you live in water damaged mold, you better fix it. And if you can't, you got to tear the house down.
You may be the only guy bringing up biblical references. What's with biblical? I was reading about the don't mix the fabrics. What's your interpretation on that one?
Yeah, the fabrics, I mean, I've heard that one, and I'm no Bible scholar, believe me, I'm not. I'm working on it. There's a lot of beauty, of course, in the oldest, most complete book that's ever been written. There's so much wisdom that's in there. And that's a whole nother conversation for my journey and my family's journey in that scenario. But the clothes, I mean, essentially, I would say this, as it relates to clothing, we want to wear natural clothing. So my undershirt here, this is organic cotton from a company called Wear Packed. My shirt is not organic cotton, but I'm wearing organic cotton underwear. My socks are organic cotton. We take the lifestyle very seriously. Now, whether or not I can wear cotton with hemp, and there are different wavelengths, and the synthetic clothing, I believe that we should look into everything, but ultimately it's just about common sense wisdom. The clothing our ancestors wore was the healthiest version of the clothing. The synthetic stuff, right? You and I are talking to people and they're like, oh, they just got done with their workout and they're wearing Lululemon or that brand called Aloe or Vuori or whatever. They're sweating. People, right, Joe, they're going into the sauna. They're wearing synthetic clothing. They think they're detoxing, but all they're doing is ingesting all of those plastic compounds. And you know this as well as I do, the study from a couple of years ago, where they looked at carotid endarterectomy people. So they pulled the plaque out of people's arteries, a procedure called a carotid endarterectomy done by a cardiovascular surgeon. So they pull it out and they look under a microscope and they look for evidence of microplastics, small little bits of plastic. And they find that 2/3 of the people had microplastics. Surprisingly, 1/3 they didn't find it. But they compared the two groups, and the group with plastic had a lot more inflammation. That's bad. And they also had a 300% higher risk of having a heart attack, stroke, and dying over the subsequent 3 years, which makes plastic in an artery a bigger risk factor than smoking, overweight, blood pressure, diabetes, combined times 3. That's what we're talking about here. And that has nothing to do with statins, has nothing to do with radiation-based tests, has nothing to do with aspirin or PCSK9s, has everything to do with root cause. Get more good stuff, less bad stuff.
Wow. Like I was going to bring up the dogs with the plastic pants and how they couldn't have babies, the polyester pants on dogs, those research studies. That's what got me into it. And I, reading I'm like, okay, in the Bible, it references some version of this. I'm going to pay more attention to it. And I haven't found a satisfying answer yet, but I'm with you. Like these microplastics build up. Nobody thinks, where's it coming from? Maybe if I'm drinking from a plastic bottle or a gallon of milk, or like nobody's 100% sure where it's coming from, but you can measure it. It's found in men's ejaculate. It's, didn't they do a study where like 100 young men and 99% of them had it in their testicles or something?
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. It is a major hormone disruptor. And typically the classic one over there is called bisphenol A. And we do urinary testing of toxins, and that includes bisphenol A. And everybody's elevated. And the normal level is 0.00. So if you're thinking about our ancestors, before plastic was invented, obviously, the levels, were 0. Another big offender there is going to be cups, like paper cups. You go to your favorite coffee shop and you get a to-go cup of coffee. That is not all paper. It's all lined with plastic, because if it was paper, of course, it would leak through, and then you'd be able to sue McDonald's for millions of dollars, right? So, that's all.
Right. And even your soda pop cans, the aluminum has it sprayed inside.
Everything is, those old time tin cans, those are gone. They're all aluminum cans, all lined with plastic. And even if it's not BPA, it's BPS, it's some of the synthetic, which is why I got my 100-year heart mug here. And again, this is just steel. And, this is typically, I drink out of steel, we drink out of glass. I got my glass water bottle here. Here's it happens to be here, my favorite olive oil from Casandrinos, so. All out of glass. I mean, and Joe, as you know, it's impossible to be totally plastic free. Even if we take a breath in, it's just like there's plastic floating around in the air, but the best we can do is minimize it. And the other thing too is that if we have a good healthy gut microbiome, that helps to digest and process a lot of the plastic. So you break it down, you poop it out the other side.
Fascinating. I'm trying to flex like you, but I'm really failing. I went on a raw milk diet a year ago. I gained 7 pounds of lean muscle mass without exercising. It's got growth hormone in it. Yeah, tell me what you think.
Well, it's like I said, it's very difficult to avoid, and life, and it's sad because in a perfect scenario, raw milk would be legal everywhere, and in that scenario, the people who sell raw milk in glass would be able to do so. And there are companies who do that in certain particular cities. And again, like, when we are up in Colorado, a lot of it, is done through, herd share and stuff like that. But I think the value of the raw milk, even in plastic, is better than pasteurized milk in glass. I mean, I would definitely do what you're saying. I like the concept of raw dairy. I've never been a big dairy guy, but I typically have 4 cups of coffee every morning, and I'm not like, I don't like measure it and stuff like that, but let's just say I have like 4 of these every morning. Usually the 3rd or 4th one has raw cream, because the raw cream would have the highest amount of fat to carb ratio. Milk per se has a lot more of the sugar, but I think raw milk is fantastic. I think it should be legal everywhere. And the reason it's not illegal is because of the government. The government, under the guise of we're trying to help you, all they're trying to do is to help big dairy producers.
You're singing my song. It can't cross state lines. You got to find someone local, and they're out there. It's a lot of people do well with it, where it's got the pre-digestion enzymes still in it. So a lot of people have it great. There's lots of books from the 1920s about raw milk diets. Doctors putting it on. It's helped a lot of people, but it is super. I can't use the word suppressed, but it's difficult to get.
Well, there was, and hopefully, this will be one of the things on the agenda of the current administration. I don't know, but and Congressman Tom Massey has been a huge raw milk guy. He's from Kentucky. I don't know if he's a senator now or he's still in the House or whatever. But again, like he's another one. Yeah, hopefully he's putting it out there. And our ancestors drank, raw dairy, and there's no reason. I've never seen anyone have a problem with it. They'll trot out, some, BS about, listeria or salmonella. The government's always trying to save us. They're just so wonderful, benevolent people, always looking for our best interest.
More people die from falling out of bed than from raw milk, so take your risk accordingly.
Yeah, real quick on that too. So there was a farm in Pennsylvania that the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture came down on. I went out there to fight on their behalf, talking about the medicinal benefits of raw milk, and they had hundreds and hundreds of testimonials about their particular product and what it did for their child and children who are on the spectrum. It really is fantastic. But listen, I love these primary foods: seafood, free-range grass-fed meats, the raw eggs, cooked eggs, obviously all high quality, and the raw dairy.
Yeah, one thing about raw milk I really like is I wanted to simplify my diet. I needed a complete food source. That's it. Milk and eggs, you can live on those, you can be fine. And it got my body into ketosis. My hunger was totally alleviated. I can eat once a day and be fine. I had to have a talk with myself when I was cutting out sugar. Like, I'm resetting my taste buds. Herbal tea is now my drink. I like this. You got to convince yourself a little bit, but that sugar is a drug. There's nothing not a drug about that sugar. People coming off, they get the migraines, they get ornery. All of that's in play.
Yeah, I like raw honey. So if anyone's going to use a sweetener, the best, of course, is raw honey. That's ancestral food, Paleolithic food. Our ancestors have been consuming honey. Honey is mentioned many times in the Bible, of course. What's not in the Bible is processed sugar. So, again, like just to use that and just to say, hey, listen, our ancestors have been eating honey, maybe some organic maple syrup. But to your point, like it's not something that we need. It's not something that we need. But for our kids out there, life is to be enjoyed. We want to do a treat once in a while. There's actually a pretty cool ice cream, which is pasteurized, and we can make our own ice cream. Of course, that's the best. But a pasteurized, grass-fed, raw honey source, it's called Ice Cream for Bears. So if you're listening to us right now and you're like, oh, Wolfson and Joe, and they were talking about ice cream, I'm going to go get ice cream, then go get something like that, as opposed to a processed sugar. Strauss's ice cream would be a second to that, and after that, it just goes downhill pretty quick.
These are great recommendations, because if you're going to have a treat, let's make sure it's a good treat, like the best of everything you can get. Totally.
Yeah, just get the chemicals out of the food. That's a big one. But listen, life is to be enjoyed, especially for the kids. And let's just do it clean. I'm not an alcohol drinker anymore, but if I was, it would be organic tequila. It would be an organic beer. We got to really do our best to get the chemicals out.
What are your thoughts on marijuana?
I don't care for it. I don't think it has really any place. I don't think there's any health benefits. I think if you're struggling mentally, there's other reasons. You need to fix those. Let's work on those. I don't think marijuana is necessarily the worst thing in the world, but I don't really see much of a benefit to it. I smoked very often when I was in college and occasionally in medical school and stuff like that. I don't think it really has any role. I think it dumbs down the system. I think it's just another, potential gateway drug. It's just not something I'm into. Certainly not like edibles and gummies. And there's so many people that are just like they're smoking every day. So, once in a while, if you're out with friends or somewhere at a party, I'm not going to totally can it, but I don't think there's really any need for it.
So be super considerate of moderation if you're going to use it.
Yeah, it's. I think so many people. Even people who I grew up with and stuff like that. I think it's just like it dumbs you down. I think again, it's Obviously, in many different forms, it can be toxic to the system. The medical literature tells us that it's not good for cardiovascular health. So, for all those reasons, and ultimately, I like my mind to be sharp. I like to be super sharp. I like to remember everything. Alcohol definitely interferes with that. Marijuana, like maybe some of these other, if you talk about other psychedelics and stuff like that, you can tap into your creativity. Again, for once in a while, use. But I don't feel the need to do like ibogaine or ayahuasca. I've never done those, but I wouldn't, NDMA, like, because I need to tap into some like future, into some deeper consciousness. I think that there may be a role in people from trauma recovery, PTSD recovery. I can't really speak to its role there. I just know that for people who chronically use, it is not healthy for the heart.
Fascinating. You brought up consciousness. That is becoming a real hot topic, hot word. Something we can barely define, but everybody wants more of it. They want to be more in tune to something. They want to be more able to express their harmonies with whatever consciousness is out there. What are you seeing in the zeitgeist about that? Because it's coming up a lot more.
Yeah, it's certainly not my area of expertise and not something that I recommend, although I do understand that there are people who are really suffering mentally that appear to be going to some of these retreat centers, controlled, comfortable settings, and achieving real breakthroughs. So to that, I'm okay. I think, listen, you're a businessman. I'm a businessman as well. You have to be in order to do this. So you're like, okay, well, is there some breakthrough that I could have while on ayahuasca, that would allow me to be better at what I do? Yeah, I guess so. But then I wonder, I'm like, well, if I have if I have this epiphany moment, well, then that makes me want to do it again sooner because like maybe I'll have another epiphany moment, So it's, again, it's not something that I really recommend, although I think that certain people in controlled settings, I think they could do it. But let's not try and find the God particle. If we're going to invoke God and spirituality, we can probably do that through prayer, through meditation, through other forms besides psychedelic.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to have a breakthrough without big preparation. Even with psychedelics, you've got to know your intention, know what you're going for, what you want to contribute and what you want to receive. But the reason I bring that up is let's go back to the blue zones or go to the blue zones where people live a really long time. Something that was not quantified, like they talked about food and diet, but the need to receive service and the need to give service was definitely brought up in all the books, even though it's not really a numerical thing we can track. So people who retire at age 60, these cops, and they just die promptly a couple weeks later because they don't have a purpose. It's a common story. How do you get your patients engaged with their purpose, or do they naturally have it?
No, I mean, clearly, when you talk about our methodology at Natural Heart Doctor, we talk about the foods we eat, which everybody loves to debate, and let's just eat organic, clean food. The lifestyle, sleep, sunshine, physical activity, movement. I'm a big fan of chiropractic care. I became holistic because my wife's a chiropractor, opened up my eyes to health and wellness, holistic dentistry. And then you get into the mindset, right? That thrival mindset. And part of that we know are things like spirituality, but gratitude and passion and purpose and connection and community. And all those people who have those things, they live longer. So you're right. So for the policeman that was used to doing all this heroic work and now all of a sudden goes into, what do they do next? And I think it's very important for anybody to have a purpose in life. And my purpose and my passion is to get the message of heart health and wellness out to the world. Now, somebody else may not have that desire or interest or platform, but maybe your passion is to be a better family member, a better friend, a better servant of God, better, community member. So there's a lot of things that people can do, and I think they really, need to find that kind of passion, that purpose for life, because without it, you got to be looking in the mirror like, what am I doing here? And that could be a very sad place, and it's not good for your heart.
Yeah, when you don't contribute, you feel it. Even if you feel like you're getting away with it, you still know you're not contributing. Totally agree with that.
Yeah, it's especially during COVID, when they had everybody isolated and apart from each other and shut down so many different things, and that was just so catastrophic on so many different levels. And people now realize that. I think they'll be real reluctant to let that happen to them again. So you mentioned all the different blue zones, and yeah, they eat healthy food in those areas, but those tend to be areas of strong community. Now, there's other areas of strong community where people don't live, quite as long for a whole variety of reasons. You can have a very strong community down in Guatemala, but if they're all processing genetically modified bananas, for example, like they're not gonna last that long, and they don't. But it helps.
Yep. Oh, wow. Where do we go from here, man? This has been a great conversation. We're speed running so many things.
Well, I think ultimately, listen, let me say this too, Joe, is that people love to blame genetics, and they're like, oh, my genetics are this or that. And I'm here to tell everybody your genetics are perfect. We can run and jump and see and feel, and we can make babies. Like, we got some pretty special genetics. There's 100 million Americans with high blood pressure. Do they all have bad genetics? Oh, so whoever created us, called that our creator God, built by God in the image of God, or the evolutionary version, however we got here, we're pretty darn perfect. Let's stop blaming our genetics. Now, we can talk about family history because we eat, live, and think like our family members did, so we'll suffer from the same diseases. And if you don't want to suffer from the same diseases, become different than your family members who were sick.
Different habits. Gut biome. What do you recommend, or how do people culture their gut biome like an English garden? So they're not killing it with glyphosate. They're not just be aware, or are there things they can do?
Oh no, there's so much you can do. So when I first met the woman who would become my wife back at the end of 2004, she's like, it's about the gut, about the gut, about the gut. I'm like, what's about the gut? I'm a cardiologist. What does the gut have to do with the heart? And she's like, you're an idiot. You should go read about it. So I went to go read about it and learn about it, and I did. And here we are, 20 plus years later. And again, I'm not an idiot. It's just like I was not educated about that. You're so indoctrinated about one particular thing, in my case, the heart. Well, what you have the gut microbiome are all the basically bacteria that are in your intestines, mostly in the large intestine, some in the small intestine, some in the stomach. And when those are healthy, they lead to vitamin, mineral, production of these, absorption of these. They have a lot to do with the immune system, the inflammatory system, combating oxidative stress, the integrity of the lining of the intestine so you don't develop leaky gut. So what happens is you have all of the environmental toxins, so too much of the bad stuff, not enough good stuff. You damage the gut microbiome, antibiotics would be in there, pesticides, of course, would be in there, artificial colors, sweeteners, all these things that damage the gut microbiome. Now you develop leaky gut, immune system activation, inflammation, oxidative stress, endothelial dysfunction, autonomic dysfunction, heart attack, stroke, dead. Like, that's the way it goes. So how do we heal our gut? We give our gut more of what it needs, take away what it doesn't. Fermented foods, kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, like you mentioned, the raw dairy that has living, breathing cultures that are in there, raw kefir, raw yogurt. Those are all superfoods for your gut. So I think a lot of your success, really, yes, it is related to vitamins, minerals, proteins, and fats in the raw dairy, but it was also how it nourishes the gut microbiome, helps to replace the gut microbiome. Another thing that's present in raw dairy is going to be butyrate and butyric acid, and all that is very nourishing for the colon cells. Just a tremendous situation. And then, of course, finally, you'd have probiotics, and that's where probiotics could really amplify the effects of improving gut health.
All that, totally. I try to distill it down to there's magic in fungus and fermentation. If you can rotate in the different mushrooms into your diet, there's great things like lion's mane that I think people should really consider. And then fermentation, the Italian antipasti, all the kombucha, the things you just mentioned, really try to rotate those in. That's the natural way to do it. And whatever magic happens, it's magic. Like, they build a lot of pharmaceuticals and tools off of these precursors.
Well, certainly in the statin drug industry, the first statin drug was mirrored after citrinin, which comes from red yeast rice. So yes, the fungal stuff is very plentiful, and the most famous mycotoxin, of course, is penicillin. It's produced by the penicillium mold that kills off bacteria. Everyone's heard of that. But, to your point, as far as these, healing, nourishing foods, absolutely, absolutely critical. And I love eating mushrooms as well. I often don't talk about mushrooms, but I love to eat them. The beta glucans are very good for lipid modification, supporting the gut microbiome as a prebiotic, postbiotic, and then all of its kind of, immune modulatory benefits. I love eating mushrooms. And quite simply, our ancestors ate mushrooms. When they saw them growing in the wild, they ate them as food. They recognized they knew, of course, what was good, what was not good. Nowadays, we got this cool thing on your phone, right? You take a picture of it, you load it up, upload it to AI. It tells you exactly what kind of mushroom it is. Eat it, don't eat it. Pretty spectacular stuff using modern technology. But I love mushrooms as long as we can identify that they're safe. And you mentioned, chaga, lion's mane. There's so many different ones, cordyceps, that really truly have medicinal value. And it's just it's just food. It's just food.
It's just food. A big crop of them showed up on my front lawn, so I made some mushroom soup. And was I the crazy one in the house for a while for using wild mushrooms I found to make some food? But yeah, I just want to feel a little closer to the earth with the mushrooms. And I'm glad you brought up cordyceps. That's a huge one. One more thing. You brought up olive oil. One of the biggest enhancements to my quality of life was getting an olive oil that I truly enjoyed. Go to your local Italian restaurant or shop in town. There's one in every big town. Just try a few. Find one you like and use that for your foods. You'll appreciate it. You picked it out. They taste floral. I really appreciate it, and something you can do. And then in the Italian restaurants, that antipasti. Try some different ones. Get rid of your old snacks if this is what you're trying to do, and get some tasty little Italian peppers, or they got everything, onions and balsamic vinegar and little cheeses and peppers. It's delicious stuff.
Yeah, don't know. Food is medicine. It's been said, obviously, cliche for so many years, and totally is true. I mean, listen, if there's any diet that's really been studied as the most beneficial diet, it's the Mediterranean diet. And those people are sucking down olive oil like it's, somebody, like another kid is eating, cotton candy at Disneyland. I mean, it's highly medicinal. Now, of course, eating the olives are even going to be a level even above that. Is that, just eat the olives if you don't want to do the olive oil. But, and when you go to those restaurants, you got to ask questions. What kind of olive oil is it? How long has it been sitting out there? Freshness matters. Rancidity happens quickly. Is the oil cut with canola or soy or something else? Is it in a clear glass bottle? So ideally, you get that fresh bottle, and you can even take it with you to a restaurant. I happen to be that guy. My wife happens to be that girl. Like, we go out for seafood, and we've got our, we'll go out to a restaurant. We'll have oysters. We'll have crab. And we'll just bring in our own dipping sauce because that's the way we roll. I don't know, So I want to live. My father died at 63, Joe. My father died at 63. I don't want that to be me. I got young kids. I've got 18-year-old, 13-year-old, 7-year-old, 5-year-old. I got to be around for a while.
Wow. Good for you. Good for you. Well, you've wasted another hour with me. Thank you so much for the time, Doc. We covered a lot of topics.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm happy to get the message out there to the world. Obviously, it's not a waste of time. I love being with my family, but I love getting that message out there to the world. And this is how we create a better world for our family to exist in. So I appreciate it with each